Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining myself and Henry Hill today, we have a real treat for you. It's Carlo Gargenese of the Italian Football Podcast, formerly of Goal.com and DAZN, now of Football Transfers. Carlo, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak to us this afternoon. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing good, Dougie, Henry. Thanks for having me on your show. It's been an exciting week of European football with the Champions League back.
Absolutely. Henry, Club Brugge getting a point against PSG last night. You must have been delighted.
I was gonna say, yeah. The 1 year I wrote them off, they've gone and pulled off the biggest shock. I mean, that is pretty impressive, isn't it? To come up against sort of that lineup as well. But hats off to them. And Hans van Aken, he's a real handful player for Bruges. He seems to pop up. He's been popping up for goals for Belgium too. So yeah, love it. But across all of those Champions League games, so much excitement. And actually, I'm buzzing for the Europa League this year. I feel like it's probably as exciting as ever, the competition. Now it's been sort of whittled down a little bit. Quality throughout. So yeah, I'm really excited to see all the European action this year, actually.
Absolutely. And there's been some great results and performances in particular by the Italian team. So it's great to have Carlo on today. Carlo, basically, we're going to ask you a series of questions that we've put out to our fans. They've sent them in and we'll see how we go. So our first question comes in from @VIP786_007. And it says, can Roma win the title this season? Now, they've obviously gone off to a superb start under Jose Mourinho. And where do you think they can end up this year?
Yeah, they won't win the title. They've had an amazing start, 5 wins in a row for Mourinho. And I mean, they've had a little bit of luck so far. In the first game against Fiorentina, Fiorentina had started the better team in that game, and then Fiorentina got a sending off. They got their goalkeeper sent off really harshly in the first half, and that obviously made it very difficult for Fiorentina. It was a great game, and then they beat Salernitana in the second game easily. Salernitana are a team that probably will go down this season, or be very close to going down. And then they beat, in another classic, incredible game last weekend, Roma won again against Sassuolo, and they were lucky, very lucky to win that game. They definitely didn't deserve to win. But, you know, they're actually playing very exciting football at the moment, which is kind of weird for Jose Mourinho. You don't associate it with a Jose Mourinho team that's winning a lot of goals, creating a lot of chances, conceding a lot of chances as well. And you know, they have some good players. They have some really good players, especially going forward. I'm not sure about their defence, but yeah, I think they're definitely in there for the top 4 this season. But it's going to be very, very tight in Serie A this season. There's a lot of 6, 7, maybe even 8 teams that can look at a top 4 place this year.
Absolutely. I think getting in the top 4 after finishing, I think it was 16 points off it last year, would be a massive, massive achievement. Maybe a title is a little bit too far at the moment. But Carlo, I was wondering, how do Italian football fans sort of view Jose now? You know, obviously he had that fantastic stint at Inter Milan, but he was turning into a little bit of a meme in his later days in England. I mean, were Roma fans delighted with his arrival? How do most Italian football fans think it's going to go?
Roma fans were delighted. They were absolutely delighted because, you know, Mourinho still has that name. He still has that aura around him in Italy anyway. He lost that aura a little bit in England, like you said. But in Italy, he's still quite a mythical figure. And, you know, for Roma, for a team that has been struggling in the last years, to be able to bring in someone with a name as big as Mourinho, that was because they were very depressed. You know, they had a terrible season, even though they got to the semi-finals of the Europa League. It was an awful season last season. They had a very aging team. You kind of looked at the Roma team and you thought, you know, where are they going to go from here? They need such a big rebuild, a revolution almost. But you know, Mourinho's come in. They've got rid of a lot of the older players from their squad in the summer. They've brought in a few good players, and now you look at their team, and they've got the nucleus of a team that, yeah, it's not going to win the title this year, but you can see them building from what they've got there. You know, Pellegrini, Tammy Abraham's come in. You know, they've got Spinazzola at left back when he comes back. You know, they've got some top players in the Zaniolo, if he can return from back to full fitness, is an incredible talent. You know, they've got quality in the team, and you know, so now the fans are looking at it as, you know, we've got something to get behind now. So it's been definitely for the Romans. It's been great.
Absolutely. Top of Serie A on goal difference, as you say. Milan and Napoli also having won all 3 of their games so far. They're also 8 points ahead of Juventus now, who we'll come on to in due course. But Henry, I was wanting to ask you, obviously, we on Continental Club are big fans of Tammy Abraham. And, you know, he's hit the ground running, in Rome, as have their other new signings. It seems like most things that Mourinho is touching at the moment, like in a lot of his early spells at different clubs, is turning to gold.
Yeah, just to sort of replicate what Carlo said, the nucleus of the squad does look exciting. So Vertu and Cristante holding midfield, and they do have options off the bench as well. We haven't seen Borja Mayoral all that much this season. Even Shomerodov, this Uzbeki forward, who we seem to be talking about every week at the moment on this channel. He's been excellent really in the minutes he's been given. 2 assists in 49 minutes. I really like the signing of Rui Patricio in goal. I think they're maybe a little bit light in central midfield. Maybe getting that kind of Xhaka move over the line would have really helped them. But yeah, Tammy Abraham, he's looked like a player reborn at the moment over in Roma. Given fully proper minutes, actually go and show what he can do. 1 goal, 2 assists in 3 games. I think he's hit the post about 3 times as well. It's very unlucky. So 1.9 key passes per 90, 1.1 expected goals and assists per 90. That's only 0.07 behind Mbappe at this early stage. Yeah, which, like I said, shows he's got the bit between his teeth in this new setting. And I absolutely love the enthusiasm that we're seeing from Jose. I absolutely adore Mourinho as a manager. But yeah, the early stages have always been sort of quite promising under him. We saw that with Tottenham last season. What were they, top of the table at one point? Big wins against Burnley, beat sort of Manchester United away, and got the better of Manchester City at home. But yeah, what I like about in Mourinho's press conferences, he's very much said, we're going to lose some games, we're going to draw some games, but I promise you we're going to at least try and win every game. And that was, you talked about that classic against Sassuolo. What was it, 17 shots to 14 across the game. Sassuolo could have easily have pinched that, as Carlo said, but Roma went for it in the end. It was quite uncharacteristic of a Mourinho side who maybe in the past would have sat back and accepted it, but they went after the game and they got the win there. El Shawari coming off the bench to score there. So everyone's pulling together. You saw how much it means to the team at the moment, and I'm excited to see how long this goes on for. But I genuinely think in Lorenzo Pellegrini specifically, they have a genuine star who could, if he can sort of keep it together for the rest of the campaign, they maybe could go quite far and definitely get for that push for that top 4 spot. It looks like he's probably going to sign a new deal, which will end a few sort of Roman worries over there. But yeah, so much to look forward to about Rome. And I'm, as always with Jose Mourinho, when it's good, it's great. And I'm enjoying the ride at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Strap yourselves in over the coming months. It's going to be absolutely great. Just to clarify, at the start of the show, I think I mentioned it, but Carlo is 1/3 of the Italian Football Podcast, which is an excellent podcast. And I saw on their Twitter that they got Sven-Goran Eriksson coming on in a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. What a guest to get.
No, we interviewed him this today.
How was it?
Actually. Yeah, it was fantastic. We had a good 40 minutes with him, and we talked all about Serie A. We talked about the Euros, talked about Roberto Mancini, because obviously he was the guy that, Mancini was his pupil basically.
Yeah.
And so he taught him everything he knew really about management. And we talked a little bit about England, and it was great. Yeah, it was fantastic. He had some funny words to say about Gary Neville and how nobody ever used to, he called him a professional moaner. That's what he called him.
Yeah.
It was
Love
good.
That.
It was good. He's a great guy.
Everyone go check out that. That's going to be a must listen for sure. Our next question, Carlo, comes from Matt Paint 21. And he says, was Max Allegri really the best managerial appointment for Juve this season? Obviously, phenomenally successful there in the past. But was there any other names that could have gone to Juve? Or do you think he's the right man for that job?
Well, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. There's a saying in Italian, which is, it translates to basically, you should never reheat soup. And that is, that's what they say about managers, that once a manager's done great at a club, he leaves, you should never really bring him back. And I was a little bit hesitant about Allegri, to be honest, because he's in his mid-50s now. He's been out of the game for 2 years. And if you look at his last 2 years at Juventus, yes, he had an incredible first spell at Juventus. He won 5 Scudetti in a row, and got to the Champions League final as well on 2 occasions. Incredible reign. But if you look at his last 2 years at Juventus, it was a Juventus team that was declining, that was getting older, that looked tired physically, but tired in terms of ideas. He was a team that I think won more because the rest of they were there for the taking, but the rest of Serie A just wasn't good enough to take advantage of a Juventus team that was declining, more than the fact that Juventus really were good, and we saw that in Europe as well. And so really you kind of have to go back over 4 years to kind of get back to where Allegri was what you would describe as one of the best managers in Europe. I mean, it wasn't all down to Allegri. There's been a lot of mistakes that have been made at Juventus, from specifically at boardroom level in terms of the transfer policy, just everything in terms of how they run the club, the people that are in the top positions. I'm not sure about them even now. So there's been a lot of mistakes. It wasn't all down to Allegri, but Allegri's now come back into this situation where these problems exist, and it's Juventus got a good win in midweek against Malmo. They looked good in that game, actually. To be fair to them, they played really, really well. But it was Malmo. But in Serie A, they've been awful so far in their first 3 games. 1 point in 3 games. It's more the style of football, the performances, rather than the results that have worried me so far. That Allegri, he was criticised even in his first spells, especially at the end, for being too passive, too much of a conservative manager, somebody that's not that progressive and relies more on being solid, counter-attacking, and to be honest, sometimes kind of relying on an individual moment of brilliance from his star players, be it a Ronaldo before, or Dybala, or someone like that, rather than through great team play or. So yeah, that's kind of my concern. I wonder whether Juventus would have been better off, rather than going back to the past, finding someone a bit younger, someone with new ideas, someone a bit more progressive, someone like Simone Inzaghi at Inter, for example, that went from Lazio to Inter and would have been available and has actually been liked by Juventus as directors for many years. I wonder whether it would have been better off going for him. But, time will tell. He's experienced. He knows how to handle the changing room better than anyone, knows how to handle the media better than anyone. He's obviously, one of the top coaches of his generation. The question mark is, does he need to reinvent himself? I'm not going to call him outdated. I've called Mourinho outdated in the past. I'm not there yet with Allegri. It's too early to say that. But I do feel like maybe he needs to be a little bit more attacking, a little bit more take the game to the opposition. Don't counter-attack against teams like Empoli and Udinese like they did in the first 2 games. I mean, you're better teams than them. Take it to the opposition. So I think he might need to reinvent himself a little bit. And he did. And to be fair to them, they did play that way against Malmo. So I want to see if they can do that against Milan this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely huge game there. And as you say, the stats are pretty damning. I mean, they're 16th in Serie A right now, as I said, way off the top spots, and they're 13th for shots, they're 18th for shots against per game, and they deserve to be 13th according to expected points. Now, we can caveat this slightly in that they haven't had a lot of their big players, haven't been that available so far. I mean, Chiesa, Locatelli, Ramsey, Kulusevski have only started 1 game. Moise Kean, who they obviously brought in late in the window, only played 8 minutes. But you're right in saying that at the end of his first spell, that 2018-19 season really wasn't that impressive by Allegri's standard, at least. I mean, they only scored 70 league goals. That was their lowest since 2011-12. They conceded 30 as well, which is the most since they finished 7th, pre-Conte arriving. I mean, Henry, there is one name who's out of work at the moment. I'm not saying Allegri needs to be sacked, but it feels like if there's any pressure on him throughout the season, the name of Zinedine Zidane is going to be linked with this job.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he hasn't made any secret of the fact that he'd be up for that job as well either. I mean, it's interesting what you say when we look at who was available this summer. Ernesto Valverde, Lucien Favre, Andre Villas-Boas, Quique Setien. I mean, it's not a great list, is it? But yeah, certainly Zidane, I think he struggles to find a place where his style of management would really fit. But Juventus is certainly one of them. You sort of get the house in order there. We've seen the issues of them having this kind of overly stacked midfield, haven't they? I mean, the team lineup is changing quite frequently at the moment. Morata in and out of the squad. So we're talking about Roma and the kind of balance, the nucleus that they found. We're still looking for that among the current team at Juventus. I was just going to ask you, Carlo. I loved your sort of reheating soup line, which you said there. But someone like Antonio Conte would surely a Juventus fan, sort of Zidane aside, surely a Juventus fan would look at Conte as someone they would want to take in, considering his sort of the way that he's reinvented himself since his time in Juventus and the fact that he is such a serial winner in his own regard. Do you think that sort of the Italians would set aside their motto if it was him on the line?
Possibly with Conte, because with Conte he is so intense. He puts everything into it. He's totally obsessed, and you feel like he will make sure that he wins. He's just a serial winner, isn't he? And he has so much passion. He's kind of a bit like the Ronaldo of managers in the sense of he's such a bad loser and he just wants to win all the time. It doesn't matter how long he does it for. So in that sense, yes. But I think the fans probably wouldn't mind him as well, because they know what he brings. They know he's a winner. The only thing against him, I think, with the fans, is that Conte doesn't have a good record in Europe, in European football. And this is something that I've spoken about for years, probably going back almost 10 years now. That I think he has a style of football that is more suited to league football rather than knockout football or European football, because he's very single-minded. He has kind of one way of playing, and he's not so adaptable, which I think you need within European games. You need to be able to adapt in game a little bit more, adapt to the opposition a little bit, gets a little bit more tactical, and also I think that Conte struggles a little bit with playing twice a week. I think whenever you've seen him manage a team where he's had one week to prepare for matches, we saw that in Juventus in his first season, and Chelsea in his first season at Chelsea when they were out of Europe. The guy is the best in the world. There's no doubt about it. They're drilling his team, preparing his team for one game a week. When it comes to 2 games a week, I think he overdoes it in the training ground. He gets them a bit tired. Anyway, I'm branching off now. The point is that, I think Conte would be good, but he left on bad terms with Andrea Agnelli, the Juventus president. I think since then, they have repaired things a little bit, but I don't think it's a great relationship. So I'm not sure whether Agnelli would go back to him. I don't know. The other thing is that, Allegri has signed a 4-year contract. I was just looking it up there just to double check, and it's 4-year contract. So, obviously if they get 1 point, they got Milan. If they lose the Milan game and then, they got 1 point from 4 games, but I think people will have to start asking at least preliminary questions a little bit. But I don't think it's a decision they're going to make straight away, given they're giving him a 4-year contract.
Interesting. It's a very good point about Conte and Europe, because even last year, after that really disappointing group stage exit in the Champions League, and we were on this channel slightly worrying, is Conte going to be under serious pressure around Christmas? They then went on that incredible run around sort of Christmas period to sort of March, April time and won the league fairly easily in the end.
Because they had one game a week.
Exactly, one game a week. Exactly, as he likes it. Let's move on to Stuart A. Kirk's question. He says, who are the top 3 youngsters to watch out for in Serie A this season? Carlo, who are you most excited to see on the younger end of the scale?
Ooh, okay. Well, I think I'll leave out the ones that everybody knows about. The likes of De Ligt and Bastoni and these kind of players, because everybody knows. But even Vlahovic, I think he's kind of exploded now. I would say younger players. Brahim Diaz. I think I predicted him as the player that would kind of be the breakout player in Serie A. Again, he might be someone that is well known by name because he's obviously was at City and then he was at Madrid, but he didn't really play much for either team, and he didn't play too much for Milan last season. He was kind of the backup to Hakan Çalhanoğlu. He kind of played a little bit more towards the end of the season, and now he's the starter. He's the starter of Milan. He scored obviously on Wednesday night against.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, against Liverpool. And he's been brilliant so far this season. And I watched quite a bit of Milan in pre-season, and he was fantastic in pre-season, which is why I thought he would break out. And he's a great little player. He's a wonderful little player, and good vision, good dribbling, creativity. Typical Spanish player. And so I think him, Brahim Diaz. I'm going to go Sandro Tonali from Milan as well, who didn't start against Liverpool, but he's been probably the best central midfielder in Serie A in these first 3 games. And last season he got his big move to Milan, and he struggled a little bit, to be honest. He didn't settle too well. He seemed a little bit overawed from a mental point of view. So far this season he's been a new player. He's been the player that everyone kind of kind of expected him, because a lot of people called him generational player. Francesco Totti said he'll become a world-class midfielder. He's got everything. Andrea Pirlo, who's the player that Tonali has been most compared to, although Tonali himself compares himself to Gattuso, because of he's also got not just the passing and the creativity and the vision like Pirlo, but he's also got he's very good at winning the ball. He puts himself around. He's aggressive. He's good at winning the ball high up the pitch, high pressing, so Pirlo spoke very highly of him as well. He's definitely someone I think is going to push on. Also because I think Frank Kessier's situation at the club with his contract situation, it's looking at the moment like he may leave on a Bosman at the end of the year, or even in January they may even decide to sell him if the contract's not sorted. And I don't know. I mean, I thought against Liverpool he looked a bit lethargic and almost like his mind was elsewhere. I thought he was poor against Liverpool, Kessié. So he might even dislodge him as the season goes on if they see that Kessié is not in the future. Who knows? So him. Finally, I'll go for someone a little bit less known, Rovella, Nicola Rovella from Genoa, who's owned by Juventus actually. And nice. I always joke with my Juventus friends that Juventus's midfield is really so bad. He should be even playing for them now. He's young. He's very young, and he needs time to develop. But he's a good central midfielder. I think he's about 20. I think he might even be 19, 20. He's a really good player, all-round player. Blonde hair kind of reminds me a little bit of a young De Rossi, but that might just be the blonde hair. But he's definitely one to watch. I think he's going to be a very, very good player as well. Italy have so many central midfielders at the moment. It's ridiculous. The golden generation for Italy, central midfielders.
Absolutely, as proven by that pretty comprehensive Euros win as well. Really, really good crop of talent coming through. Henry, I mean, at Sassuolo, we've got two strikers coming through in Scamacca and Raspadori that are making some headlines there as well, with Caputo having left on loan to Sampdoria. Do you think they could have a good season?
Yeah, I mean, I was massively buoyed after watching that Roma game. I think there was a bit of concern. Everyone thought with Roberto De Zerbi leaving that it was, like you say, people like Caputo on the move, that it was maybe going to fall apart a little bit. But Sassuolo still have an unbelievably talented squad, and Dionisi looks like a really sort of superb managerial appointment there. Has earned his way through sort of the system, and deservedly is manager of a top side now. But yeah, like you say, Scamacca, he's been out on loan away from Sassuolo for the last 4 seasons, with 2019-20 with Ascoli in Serie B, and last season with Genoa, where he got 8 goals in 26 games. He's only been given 58 minutes of football so far, but he looks useful. He scored that disallowed goal right at the very end, didn't he? Some stunning volley. So he's certainly one to look out for. And Raspadori, I know you've been a big fan of him for a while, Dukes. It looks like he's going to have a really big opportunity to show what he can do this season. He started all 3 games so far, grabbed a goal against Verona, who look like they're in for a bit of a disaster. I think sacking Eusebio is probably a bit more of a smart move there. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite convinced of him as a manager anymore. He's had such a tricky last couple of years. But anyway, yes, Raspadori also scored for Italy versus Lithuania the other day, which shows you the kind of talent that he's hitting at the moment. So lots to look forward to in this Sassuolo side. Sorry, but just quick shout out to our Scottish fans. Aaron Hickey, he started the season a lot more positively at Bologna this season. At left back, he's sort of the regular starter there now. He's still only a teenager. Quite an ambitious move actually for Hickey to head out to Bologna. So fingers crossed that he can maintain the early momentum this season and hopefully lead Bologna to a decent season.
I love it. Playing alongside Marko Arnautovic now at Bologna, who's played quite well so far, I believe. With Rodrigo Palacios, their sort of stalwart of the last few years, has now moved on. So best of luck to Aaron Hickey. Yeah, I think we've covered the young players pretty well. I think Zaniolo, it's going to be... I just can't wait to see him get back to his best. Damsgaard as well. Can you replicate that Denmark form for Sampdoria this year? Alongside a Hatteran as well at Sampdoria. So lots of young talent to get your teeth stuck into in Serie A, which I think has probably been the most exciting league so far. Our next question's coming from Tyreek Mitch, and it says, with Lukaku and Ronaldo gone, who will win top goal scorer / player of the year? Now, Carlo, Ronaldo was top goal scorer last year. I believe Lukaku was player of the year. Has this left a little vacancy for a new name, or do you think it'll be one of the old names that comes through?
Possibly. I don't think the top scorer will come from one of the traditional big 3, so from Juventus, Milan, or Inter. I think Juventus lack a a real, a goal scorer. To be honest with you, Milan and Inter, I think the goals will be shared around in those teams. So Roma, I don't think so. Lazio, I think Immobile is definitely in with a shout, top scorer, because Sarri plays such attacking football and he always gets the best out of his star striker, star forward. We've seen that at every team really he's been at. So I think it's probably out of Immobile, and Osimhen I think could be a possibility for Napoli. I see him having a really good season if he stays fit and disciplined. He's a great player. But the player I'd probably bet on would be Dusan Vlahovic at Fiorentina. Nice. Because he's really exploded. He's going to be a top player for a top club. He'll join a big club next summer, there's no doubt about that. And he scored, I think I saw yesterday that only 3 players have scored more goals in Europe in 2021 calendar year than Vlahovic. He's on fire, and he's playing in a team that are going to play attacking football under Vincenzo Italiano this season. So I think he will definitely score a lot of goals.
There we have it. Vlahovic, one to watch for a big move next summer. Henry, anyone else you want to put in the mix? Could Lautaro Martinez, out of Lukaku's shadow, get in the mix for top goal scorer?
I don't think so. No, not for me. I think Inter Milan, I think a lot of the goals are going to be coming from midfield as well. I mean, Dzeko's looked pretty effective so far. Be interested to see sort of once Giroud or Ibrahimovic, once they get up to speed, how impressive they are. But I've really enjoyed... He's not going to be top scorer or anything, but I feel like Rafael Leao has come along a long way this season already. Against Liverpool, he looks so composed and a bit almost like Vinicius over at Real Madrid. I think this could be his season to really explode in a Milan shirt, and I'm very excited for that as well. But yeah, Ciro Immobile, it looks like he really is going to be the guy to set the division on fire. And if they won 6-1 the other day, and he looked just so composed and excellent in that game as well. So yeah, Ciro Immobile for top scorer, but Rafael Leao, one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, Ciro Immobile scored at least 20 league goals, I was seeing, for 4 of the last 5 seasons. Last year he got 20 in 34. The season before that was 36 in 36. And Sarri, we know in Italy, his teams create loads of high-quality, good chances. We've seen Sergej Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto start the season really promisingly as well. So yeah, Ciro Immobile seems like a sure bet for top goal scorer. In terms of best player, I think I've been really impressed with Lorenzo Pellegrini so far at Roma. Nicola Barella is one of my favourite players in world football. So yeah, I'm going to go for one of those. Right, next question comes in from @Panthraderman, and it's our final question of the show. And it's, are Serie A clubs in a position to challenge for the Champions League this season, Carlo? Obviously, it's been a difficult few years for Italian clubs in Europe, but some really promising performances this week in the debut of the Champions League in this season.
Yeah, no. To put it simply, I think, to be honest with you, I think no Italian teams or Spanish teams can challenge for the Champions League this season. When we just have to look at the spending, have a look at the summer transfer market, and look at the spending from Italian teams to Spanish teams in particular. I think both of them had a net transfer spend, the league, of around about 60 million euros, and the Premier League had something like 600 odd million net spend. So I mean that kind of tells the story. I think outside of PSG and the Premier League, I think it's out of PSG and the Premier League clubs with Bayern Munich possibly having a chance as well, because when you've got Lewandowski scoring, I saw today, 1.22 goals a game in the last 2 seasons. I mean, you're always going to have a chance of him. So I think it's out of PSG, Bayern and the English clubs. I don't see anyone else challenging, but that doesn't mean they can't, have some good seasons. I think quarter-final is probably the limit for the Italian teams this year, and if they get a lucky draw in the quarter-finals, they could possibly go further, but I just don't see them over 2 legs. I just don't see them beating one of the big 3 Premier League teams. Man United, yes, I think the Italian teams can beat them over 2 legs. I don't see them beating City, Chelsea or Liverpool over 2 legs.
They did look really, really strong this week, those 3 teams, except for a minor slip-up from Liverpool approaching half-time, obviously, against AC Milan, who were brilliant for a period in that game and did surprise me somewhat with some of their counter-attacking play, particularly Brahim Diaz was so heavily involved in that first goal as well. Alexis Salamakers as well had a really good game. So it'll be interesting to see how they can do in that group of death alongside Atletico Madrid and FC Porto. Henry, I mean, Inter Milan, felt incredibly harsh to lose that game against Real Madrid. And then Juventus put in a big performance against Malmo with Morata scoring a wonderful goal. Do you think Juventus and Inter could finally sort of exceed expectations this year in Europe after so many years of not quite going up to expectations?
Not for me, for Juventus. As I said last week, I'm tipping them to have a pretty awful season, actually, until they got Malmo. Malmo were actually on top of them until they got the goal, and then the Swedish side sort of fell apart a little bit. I mean, they haven't been past the quarters since 2017. They had that sort of stunning loss to Porto, didn't they, last season? I don't see them really improving on that at all. But Inter Milan, I'm actually a bit more positive about. I still think their back three is as good as any in Europe at the moment. Obviously, losing Lukaku is a massive deal, but against Real Madrid, it's really unfortunate that they couldn't walk away with that match with 3 points there. It's probably as positive a performance I've seen from Inter Milan since they made their sort of consistent return to the Champions League. They created 2.4 XG to 1. If they could have just poked their noses ahead, it could have been quite exciting. And they've got Shakhtar and Sheriff Tiraspol, who beat Shakhtar, didn't they, in their opening game. The only thing that's concerning there is sort of the amount of travelling that they're going to have to do in this group. But genuinely, I can see them comfortably getting through this group stage, and I do think they're going to be more of a handful for a number of sides. Like Carlo said, quarterfinals. But once you're in this quarterfinal position, you never know. I just feel like Inzaghi has got them playing quite an exciting way, and I'll be intrigued to see if they can maybe try and catch out a team further down the line. We've seen it before, and I think this Inter Milan team is certainly good enough to go the distance. They've got so much squad depth across every single wing. I mean, I was so excited to see Di Marco come in and perform so well. Wrote about him a lot last season when he was at Hellas Verona. So on both wings, they've got options, absolutely stacked midfields. If they can just sort of convert some of their chances in front of goal, which to be fair in the league they've been doing, they just couldn't get it over the line against Madrid, then I think they can actually have an impressive season. Whether or not they're going to win it is no. But yeah, Inter Milan for me could cause a few surprises later on in the tournament.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think they're definitely one I wouldn't want to draw as well. Simone Inzaghi's Lazio did pretty well last year as well, getting to the last 16, and then came up against a Bayern side who are just a machine as well. One team we haven't really mentioned throughout the whole show, is Atalanta, who've had a bit of a strange start to the season, in all honesty. I mean, Duvan Zapata's still getting plenty of chances, but I was expecting a little bit more from them at the start of this year, where it looked like sort of 5 or 6 teams could get amongst the title mix. And after 3 or 4 very positive years for Atalanta, I thought it could be this year to maybe, go a bit deeper into the title race, but hasn't really materialised so far. For our final section of the show, Carlo, we tend to do a big match preview where we go in depth in one game. Now, I know you've got a big meeting coming up relatively soon. It's probably with Sven or some other Italian football legend. So I'm just going to ask you for your score predictions for some of the games this weekend. I'm going to pitch you up against Henry Hill, who is our reigning champion in terms of score. Did you win last year, or was it McCubbs, Henry?
I won.
Okay, so we've got the best of Continental Club against the best of the Italian football podcast in terms of score predictions. This Friday night, Carlo, Sassuolo versus Torino. What's your scoreline?
Oh, gosh. Torino are a horrible team to play against with Ivan Juric, so I don't think it will be a huge score. Maybe let's go 2-1 to Sassuolo.
Okay. Henry, are you in agreement?
I was going to go for that, but I agree. There's a lot. When we put this question out, a lot of people wanted us to talk about Torino and the signings they've made. So Dennis Pratt, Brecolo. I'm going to go, as you say, difficult team to play. I'm going to go 1-1, but I probably do support the 2-1 to Sassuolo.
Okay, Henry, in the interest of fairness, I'll let you go first on the next one. Saturday, 5 p.m, Inter Milan versus Bologna. What are you saying?
3-0 to Inter Milan.
Oh, comprehensive. Carlo?
Oh, Mihailovic. God. I'm useless with predictions on matches. I'm good at predicting players, like whether they're going to, how the players are going to do over the course of the season, or if they're a young players going to be good. But predictions for matches, I'm terrible at. Inter, Bologna. Oh God, I'll go Inter winning 3-1.
3-1. Both going for pretty heavy wins. Okay, Sunday we see Hellas Verona versus Roma. Hellas Verona notoriously pretty defensive, tough to beat. Roma, very entertaining as we've covered so far this year. Carlo, what are you going for this one?
Ooh, the new manager bounce might work in Verona's favour, possibly. And Roma are playing Conference League on Thursday, so
I like it.
It suggests that I'm about to go for a Verona draw or something, but I don't think I am. I'm gonna go 2-1 Roma.
Oh, I thought you were going to be so brave for a second there. Henry, are you backing Hellas Verona?
No, I'm going 2-0. 2-0 to Roma. They've got too much for them.
Okay, finally for the big game of the weekend, it's Sunday, 7:45, Juventus versus AC Milan. I'm going to put my prediction in here as well. I think AC Milan are going to win this 2-1. Big game. Cannot wait to watch this. Whose go is it? Henry, who are you going for?
I can just see AC Milan sort of battling down the hatches for certain points. Chiesa goal, but I'm going to go for 1-1 in this game.
1-1. Carlo, are you backing Juve?
I want to go for Juve in this one.
Nice.
Not because they're a better team, they're not, but because I think that the Liverpool game will have taken quite a bit out of Milan. That was a real tough, grueling game. I mean, the Liverpool's pressing and running is just ridiculous. It's unbelievable. I don't know where they get their energy from. So yeah, I think that would have taken it out of them for sure. I don't know what the situation is with Zlatan's fitness, whether he's back. I'm assuming he's not. So I'm going to go Juventus. I'm going to go Juventus 2-1.
There we have it. Yeah, you're right, calling out Liverpool's amazing press. That energy in that first 10 minutes was just absolutely frightening, with Andy Robertson causing Calabria all sorts of issues. Fair play to AC Milan for getting back into it as well. And, the goals in the end were of really high quality as well. That they eventually succumbed to. But guys, that is all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. A massive thank you to Carlo for participating in what's been a Serie A breakdown. Carlo, we've already mentioned it, the Italian football podcast. Where else can people find you?
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on with you guys, Doug and Henry. You can find me on Twitter at Carlo Gargenese, and all my work, all my written stuff that I do, all my everything, all my appearances on media, radio, TV. You can find it all on my Twitter page, and you can also visit the Italian Football Podcast through patreon.com/TIFP, and our latest interviews with Sven-Göran Eriksson, which was out now.
Yeah, go listen to that. I can't wait to listen to that. What a character, Sven, on and off the pitch. Henry, it's been an absolute pleasure having Carlo on, hasn't it? Some real knowledge of Serie A.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that you've gone from Sven to us two, really. That's the only thing I can say. What a day.
What a day for you, yeah. But no, yeah, it's great. Serie A it's on such a high at the moment, isn't it? I mean, Diggs, you talked about sort of how La Liga is maybe falling behind a little bit. You cannot say that for Serie A. It's such a nostalgic league for everyone, and for it to be back with such a vengeance is so good. And it's a very exciting season for it as well. Just quickly, I wrote 10 wonder kids to watch in the Champions League this year. I saw a lot of abuse because I forgot about Jamal Musiala. I hold my hands up. That is completely my fault. But I was looking.
Everyone knows about him though. I think that's good.
I was looking for some more niche players from the likes of Shakhtar and Club Brugge for you to get your teeth into, but sorry, Musiala, Camavinga, of course, they are players to watch. And actually, if you go watch the video, quite a few of my suggestions came up trumps in the first round of fixtures. Yeah, came up trumps in the first round of fixtures this week, so I was quite satisfied with that. Let's hope my predictions for this weekend's games were as good as what I put forward in that video.
Absolutely. Best of luck to both of you in our predictions head off this weekend in Serie A. Carlo, thank you very much again for joining us. Guys, please remember to like and subscribe to Euro Football Daily, and we'll catch you next time.